Hydroxychloroquine has become a household name during White House briefings.
I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying we hear great results.
President Trump often hyping the drug's prospects in combating COVID-19.
I really think it's a great thing to try, just based on what I know.
He gets very excited about it, and so there's a lot of enthusiasm about it. But at present, we don't know if the drug works at all.
Dr. David Boulware is overseeing 3 national hydroxychloroquine trials at the U of M. Pharmacists there are dispensing the drug, and researchers are then packing and mailing it to participants who sign up online. The first is a prevention trial, enrolling those with known exposure to COVID-19 cases, either through work or living with a patient. The second is an early treatment trial, enrolling people with confirmed cases who are in the first 4 days of therapy and not hospitalized. The third, that began this week, is a pre-exposure prevention trial for people in high-risk professions like first responders and healthcare workers.
To see if we can give preventative medicine beforehand to prevent healthcare workers from getting sick.
To be clear, is there any evidence early that is really promising with this in terms of the trial itself?
We're doing sort of I would say a proper randomized trial, and so half the patients get the hydroxychloroquine, half of them get a placebo. I know some people who've gotten sick in the prevention trial, but I don't know at present what they have received.
You may have seen stories about other anecdotal and non-randomized trials, like this one out of France, which earned high praise from the president. But Boulware says it only focused on patients who did well.
Said, oh, this is great, but they excluded 23% of the people who did badly. And so that sort of bias is generally not acceptable.
Do you worry about that?
I do. This is a medicine with certain side effects. People can have allergic reactions. People can have heart problems, and so at present it does not make sense to use this broadly.
But it does make sense to sign up for a trial if you qualify. All 3 still need hundreds of volunteers, and the faster they fill up, the faster we'll all have answers.
I think ultimately we'll know in a few weeks whether this hydroxychloroquine actually works or does not work. And so there's a good chance it may not work at all. If it works, it is a game changer, but similarly, if it doesn't work, we need to really not be using it, because there are people that do use this on a daily basis.
Kent Erdahl, KARE 11 News.